and goal from the 1. Touchdown.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video, and welcome to the Gridiron. And before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone out there who's been watching my videos. Thank you. If you can maybe give this video a thumbs up or possibly leave a comment below, maybe even share this video, it would mean so much to me. But at least anyway, just thank you so much for just taking time out of your day to check out this video. Thank you. Well, guys, we made history today. The next GM in the history of the New York Football Giants is Joe Schoen. Apparently, when I was reading this, he just beat Adam Peters of the 49ers for the GM job. Apparently, it was kind of, I guess, very, very close. Yeah, I was like, yeah. I don't know if Mr. Mara, when they officially introduce him as the next GM of the Giants, if Mr. Mara will be saying anything or not, exactly what it was, maybe, but apparently it was pretty close. I mean, Adam Peters was pretty well, represented too. I mean, he would have been a fine choice as well too. I think Ryan Poles, I think somewhere along the line, guy's only 36. Someday he's going to get his chance. He'll be a GM someday. His future is really, really bright. But between Peters and Schoen, they've both been assistant GMs for 5 years now. I mean, there's a lot going on in the teams. I mean, a lot of departments and all that, and 5 years, being an assistant general manager, learning, all the ins and outs, and maybe not so much calling the shots and all, but learning all this stuff, is huge, and that might quite possibly why Peters and Schoen were, maybe, neck and neck, and maybe Poles was, wasn't quite so close. But, I'm sure he'll get his chance sooner or later. Somebody will wind up, hopefully, maybe making him an assistant GM, let him get a little experience under his belt being an assistant GM. It doesn't mean you have to be an assistant GM. But, it certainly doesn't hurt either. If he gets his chance being an assistant GM, I'm sure just a matter of time for Ryan Poles winds up becoming a GM too, because he, as I said, his future is very bright, and especially, I said, guy's freaking 36 years old. That's it. My goodness, wow, what a special guy. So Schoen actually started, going back, with where we started out at. He started out in 2000 with the Panthers. He was like he started off as an intern in their ticket office. He was, he went to college. He graduated from DePaul, not DePaul, DePaul University, which is in Indiana. He was a quarterback his first year. Then his last 3 years, I think he was a wide receiver. And his senior season, he was a captain. So he realized when he got out of college, he wanted to continue in the professional football, but he realized he wasn't going to be a player. So the next best thing to do would be maybe, hook up with one of the teams. So apparently, through a friend of a friend, he got in and was an intern in the Carolina Panthers ticket office. But in 2001, all right, Brandon Beane, all right, hired Schoen to work in the Panthers scouting department. So basically, from 2001 to 2007, Joe Schoen was with the Panthers, and Brandon Beane was there. We're going to circle back to Brandon Beane in just a little bit. But in 2008, all right, he was hired by Bill Parcells to be a national scout with the Dolphins. By 2013, he was the assistant director of college scouting, and from 2014 to a little bit into 2017, he was Miami's director of player personnel. So he was moving up, right? He was he was moving up. Now in 2008, Bill Parcells was running Miami's football operations. He was there from 2008, 2009, and 2010. He didn't really know of Joe Schoen personally, but he found him through Dan Henning. Dan Henning worked for Bill Parcells. He was on Parcells' staff, the Jets staff, when Bill Parcells was coaching the Jets in the late 1990s. Dan Henning was on his staff. Then Bill Parcells retired for I guess it would have been the third time then after the Jets, because he was with the Giants and the Patriots and the Jets. Then after the Cowboys, then he retired again. But anyway, after he retired coaching the Jets, Henning went to, obviously wasn't with the Jets anymore. Henning went to the Panthers, and he was with the Panthers from 2002 and 2006. That's where he crossed paths. Dan Henning crossed paths with Joe Schoen, and started becoming familiar with them all. Then after Bill Parcells started running Miami, the Dolphins in 2008, Dan Henning came back around. It's amazing how the coaches all start working with each other once again. But 2008, Dan Henning came back and started working with Miami. He was their offensive coordinator from 2008 to 2010. Bill Parcells was with the Dolphins, all right, from 2008 to 2010. And that's where Henning told Parcells about Schoen. He told him about, the time when Henning was working in Carolina, about how Schoen, what kind of, I guess what a worker he was and all that and everything. So when Parcells called Schoen for an interview, he didn't know him personally, but he had some information on him, from Henning. So when he interviewed him, he liked what he saw, and he gave Schoen a more prominent role, a more prominent job, all right, and that, with the Dolphins, and that really helped, spark Schoen's career. Really got it going from there. So that's how Bill Parcells came to know Joe Schoen, is from Dan Henning, all right. But Bill Parcells is a huge Joe Schoen fan. Now, Bill Parcells I was reading this today, isn't making no predictions or nothing, because one of the things I was reading, he doesn't know who the coach is going to be. You know what I mean? But he has high regards for Joe Schoen. Really thinks highly of him. So if Bill Parcells thinks highly of you, that's saying something. So that's pretty darn encouraging. So Schoen, was with the Dolphins, all right, basically until like the beginning of 2007 or so. Then Brandon Beane, all right, who was working with Carolina, left Carolina, all right, after 2016, after 19 seasons, he was with Carolina. He left Carolina, so in 2017 he became the Bills GM, all right, and he got Joe Schoen to come from Miami to go to Buffalo to become his assistant. So once again, it's all a lot of familiarity. All right, Joe Schoen, is with Buffalo, with Beane. They were working together, in Carolina. Dan Henning was in, with Bill Parcells. He went back to the Dolphins, and that's how Henning knew Schoen, told Parcells. There's a lot of familiarity. A lot of that stuff kind of goes on. But that's why Joe Schoen wound up in Buffalo, because of Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane, became the GM, and he's like, he got Joe Schoen. So for the past, basically, 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21, the past 5 football seasons, that's why Joe Schoen has been the assistant GM of the Buffalo Bills. All right. So now it's pretty cool, because now Parcells kind of gets to sit back and watch Joe Schoen, who's only 42 years old. Oh, freaking unbelievable, dude. Oh my God, these guys are so young. It's amazing. But he gets to watch Joe Schoen help rebuild the Giants, which was Parcells' team. So that's gonna be pretty special. Hopefully for all of us. If it works out for the Giants, we're going to love it, right, guys? But I mean, Bill Parcells will really feel pretty special, too, because he always has a soft spot in his heart for the Giants. Always. So 2017 to 2021, the Bills were in the playoffs 4 out of 5 years. 2017, right, when Brandon Beane was the GM, and Shane and Sean McDermott was the coach, right? The three all came in together, right? 2017, the Bills with Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback. They were 9-7, and they made the playoffs. That was the first time, first time since 1999 they went to the playoffs. First time in 17 seasons the Bills went to the playoffs. I mean, absolutely freaking bananas. The place was going absolutely crazy when they made the playoffs. Unbelievable. So they were 9-7, okay, and then 2018 they kind of went down a little bit, but the reason why was because they were 6-10. They didn't make the playoffs, but that was Josh Allen's first season. Now, when you get the starting quarterback, sometimes you got to take the hit. I mean, not everybody's going to walk in there rookie season and take the team to the Super Bowl. Or take a team to a winning season or whatever. Sometimes you got to take the hit. Like with Eli Manning. I mean, he lost his first 6 games. We were 5-4 when he took over. Before he won his first game, we went from 5-4 to 5-10. He finally won the last game of the season against the Cowboys. All right. But you got to take the hit. So they drafted Josh Allen. They thought he was the future and this, that, and all that other everything. And they took the hit. That was also Brian Daboll's first season, all right, as the Bills' offensive coordinator. So they brought in Daboll, who came from Alabama. More on that in a minute, all right. But so they brought Brian Daboll in there to work with Josh Allen, right? They took the hit, and they were 6-10, right? But the next season, right, they went from 6-10, they went to 10-6, and they made the playoffs. 2020 went 13-3. Obviously, they made the playoffs. This past season, they slipped a little bit, but they were still 11-6. 2021, once again, they made the playoffs. Right? And they're only 1 game away from the championship. And they're playing the Chiefs Sunday night. Man, that ought to be a good game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills beat the Chiefs, but just wait and see. But I mean, they played each other last year. What a great game, I'll tell you. So it should be a special game this Sunday night too. But I mean, they brought Brian Daboll in to work with Josh Allen. All right, so I mean, the past 3 years they've been in the playoffs. Really done a great job. Now the thing is, because now, see, Saturday, all right, Shane is still he's still in Buffalo, all right. Now he's going to be interviewing Leslie Frazier and Brian Daboll Saturday because Sunday night they got the playoff game against the Chiefs, so you can't, they're going to be in Kansas City, so he's not interviewing them then. So he's going to be in Buffalo. He's going to interview Leslie Frazier and Brian Daboll on Saturday. All right. So Brian Daboll's obviously the offensive coordinator, and then Leslie Frazier is the Bills' defensive coordinator. All right. So he's going to be doing that in Buffalo. He's not going to be doing it in New Jersey. Right. Now, what I've been reading is that Brian Daboll is expected to be one of the favorites, all right, for the head coaching job. Not that there's going to be too many guys. I mean, I think we're supposed to be interviewing Brian Flores, and although what I heard was John Mara kind of reached out to Brian Flores, so I don't know if that was. I don't. Oh, I mean, apparently what I was reading too is Shane reached out to Flores as well too. So we're supposed to be interviewing Quinn and Flores, and obviously both those guys were coaches, all right. But I mean, Saturday, Leslie Frazier and Brian Daboll of the Buffalo Bills are going to be interviewed by Joe Shane in Buffalo. Now, as I said, Daboll's expected to be one of the favorites for the job. He's the offense of the Bills. His first year, Brian Daboll, when he took over for with Josh Allen. Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator, right, of of the Bills. And, obviously the first season, 2018, wasn't too good. They averaged 16.8 points per game. Not very good. That's like very Giants-like, right? 16.8. But as I said, it was the first season with Josh Allen. The second season, they went from, actually they were 30th out of 32 teams in 2018 in points scored, so it wasn't looking too good. The second season, they got better. They went up about 3 points per game. They went up to 19.6 points per game in 2019. So Josh Allen got a little better, right? And they went up to 19.6. They were 23rd out of 32 teams. But then the big jump came in 2020, the Josh Allen third-year jump. What a jump that was. They went up to 31.3 points per game. They were second in the NFL. 31.3 points per game. Whew. This year they slipped a little bit. And this year they were 28.4 points per game, but they were still third in the NFL. And you know what? They slipped a little bit, but I'll take 28.4 points per game anytime. Because the last time the Giants averaged 28.4 points per game, the last time, 1963, they averaged 32 points per game. So it's been almost 60 years since the Giants have averaged 28.4 points per game, right? So I'll take that any day of the week. But just goes to show you what Daboll's doing. You gotta have the coach, you gotta have you gotta have the team, you gotta have health, and you gotta have the quarterback. It's all together. But just to go to show you what Daboll's with his offense has been able to do with Josh Allen. All right, so they've done a pretty special job now. Daboll. He's been coaching in the NFL since 2000. Now he's been around. He's had 2 different stints with the Patriots. He's been back. He's been with Bill Belichick 2 different times. All right. He's also been with the Jets. He's been with the Browns. He's been with the Dolphins. He's been with the Chiefs. In 2017, he was with Alabama. He was their offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, and they won the national championship. Now, the 2017, actually was played in January of 2018, but that championship game, that was the legend, the Tua Tagovailoa. That's where the legend all started. Remember, at halftime, Georgia was beating Alabama 13-0 in the championship game. Jalen Hurts, just a horrible. Saban coming off the field said, we can't throw the ball, we can't do this, we can't do nothing. So at halftime they benched Jalen Hurts and they put in Tua. And Tua threw 3 touchdown passes, 1 in the third quarter, 1 in the fourth quarter, and he threw the overtime game winner. And they wound up beating Georgia 26-23 in overtime. It was phenomenal, fantastic, wonderful game and all that. But that's where the legend of Tua Tagovailoa started, in that game. But just to go to show you, I was looking at their roster. They have like 7 or 8 quarterbacks on their roster. They weren't all dressed for the game, but on the roster they had Jalen Hurts, they had Tua Tagovailoa, and they had Mac Daddy Jones. It's like, I wonder why they're so good every year. You got to have the coaching, but simply amazing. Just every year they get, not all the best players, but. And of course, one of the touchdown passes was DeVonta Smith to another first rounder. So it just goes to show you how unbelievable Alabama is. But anyway, Daboll was there for the 1 year, 2017, the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach, right? So after 2017, the Bills got him to work with Josh Allen, right? And the rest is kind of like history. So basically, from 2018 to the present, Brian Daboll's been the offensive coordinator of the Bills. So he can coordinate, but he's never been a head coach. Some guys can do both. Not everybody can, as we saw with Joe Judge. So if he does get the job, it's going to be foreign territory to him as far as, not maybe calling plays, but worrying about everything else. Flores coming in, he's been a head coach. Quinn's been a head coach, and then he's also interviewing Leslie Frazier on Saturday too, who has been a head coach. He's been a head coach. He was in Minnesota from 2010 to 2013. 2010, he was the interim coach. His record was 3-3, right? But he got fired after the 2013 season. His overall record was 21-32-1. Not very impressive. He had a 1 playoff appearance in 2012. His second season there in 2011. They were 3-13. The next season, They went from 3-13 to 10-6. That was the biggest jump in Minnesota Vikings history of all time for Minnesota. 7 games they won up. They won 3 games one year. The next year they won 10, and then they went to the playoffs. In 2012. So things were really looking up. But the next season in 2013, they were 5-10-1. He wound up getting fired. So I mean, his record was 21-32-1. So he hasn't coached. Or since 2013, been a head coach. Nobody's asked him that. So we're going to 2022. If he's a head coach, that means it'd be like 9 years since he was a head coach. Not everybody winds up going. I mean, hey, this guy hasn't been a coach for 37 years. Let's ask him to be a head coach. It's kind of tough. Especially he didn't do good. I mean, if he took a couple teams to a Super Bowl or something like that, and it's been 8 or 9 years, hey, maybe give him a try again. But I mean, he didn't do very well in Minnesota. He had 2 really bad seasons there. He hasn't coached in 9 seasons. I can't really see him getting a head coaching job. What I can see him doing is being a coordinator. Very good, very, very good coordinator. Leslie Frazier's been coordinated. He's been in the NFL since 1999. He's been with the Eagles, the Bengals, the Colts, the Vikings, the Bucs, the Ravens, and the Bills. So he's been everywhere, but usually pretty much anywhere he's gone, he's been successful. So, he's going to come in. So tomorrow, we're not going to probably won't have a, official announcement, but tomorrow in Buffalo, Joe Schoen is going to interview Brian Daboll and Leslie Frazier. And then I guess this week coming up, we're going to wind up interviewing, Dan Quinn and probably Brian Flores and maybe somebody else. I don't know, but I do know those 2 guys tomorrow. Our now GM, Joe Schoen, is going to be interviewing those 2 guys in Buffalo. And when I saw this online, too, Joe Schoen wrote something. I guess I know it's to the fans and the organization and all that of the Giants. He wrote this little something. I just want to read it before I sign off on this video. It's pretty nice, very nice of him. So this is Joe Schoen, the new general manager of the New York Giants. He says, the work begins. Oh yeah, Joe. Say it ain't so, Joe. You got that right, brother. You got a lot of work to do, pal. My immediate focus is to hire a head coach who I will work in a lockstep to create a collaborative environment for our football operations. A person who possesses the ability to lead an organization and the ability to motivate and develop players. On the personnel side, we will begin to evaluate our roster and prepare for the draft and free agency. Our goal is to build a roster that will be competitive, have depth, yes, and most importantly, win football games. All right, Joe, let's get her done. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of the day to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there and go Giants! Woo!